What a disgrace. An absolute shambles from start to finish. And I know Liverpool are a good side, and I'm not taking that away from the side Arne Slot has assembled this season, the way they've been playing. It was always going to be a tough game today, going to Anfield with the league on the line for them. The fans are up for it from the start. But how many times this season are we going to sit here and say that it's just another loss? You know, it's onto the Europa League. Then it's not good enough. It's just not good enough. Yeah, this is the 1882 Club, brand new podcast about Tottenham, and I'm going to be honest, I'm going to be frank, and I'm going to be candid in this podcast. I'm not going to hold back on my views on the current state of the club, and I'm sure there's a lot of people who feel probably the same as I do. But today's result, if you haven't seen it, Liverpool 5, Tottenham Hotspur 1. And at the start, it was looking relatively positive. Took an early lead from a corner. Maddison's corner, headed home by Dom Solanke. It was a really good header from Dom. He's been a bit under pressure recently because he hasn't been scoring many league goals. Really nice header across Alisson, who couldn't really do anything about it. A lot of power in it. It reminded me a bit of, I don't know if you remember a few years ago under Pochettino when Spurs faced Man United at Old Trafford. There was Eriksen took a corner and Kane's sort of similar header back across the goalkeeper, and that header just reminded me of that for some reason. I don't know why, but yeah, from then on, what a mess. All over the shop, no shape, no system, no structure. What a mess we're in. We're so bad at the moment. Goals from Luis Diaz, who got the opener for Liverpool. McAllister, really, I mean, there's nothing they could do about that. It was a great goal, really. We'll come on to it in a minute. So some errors at the back, but nothing. Great finish from McAllister. Gakpo, Salah, and an own goal. Oh dear me, where do you start? Oh, actually, I do want to start with discussing the manager, who's, well, everyone says he's under pressure, but he doesn't really seem to be under any pressure from the club because he's A, still here, and B, there's never really any concrete talk of any replacement managers that could take over, because this is Spurs' 19th defeat in the league this season. That's the worst they've ever had. Well, what can you say? 19 league defeats this season for a club like Tottenham Hotspur is just not acceptable. I don't care how bad the squad is, and people say it's the worst squad they've seen. This squad is better than where they are. To me, that's a fact. They're better than where they are. He's just not getting enough out of the squad, and I'm sorry to say that, but he hasn't been for a long time. And there's players there who look so either fed up or they just don't understand what they're being asked to do. And I think half the fan base just don't understand what the system is. There's all this talk about Ange ball and, we need to be playing Ange ball. What actually is that? Can someone just put their finger on it and just say what Ange ball is as a system? Because I was watching Liverpool today, and I know they've got better players. I know they've spent more money. But you could define every player's role in that Liverpool side, and they all know what they're meant to do at any one point. Spurs look just disorganised, disjointed, and there's just no tactical cohesion within the group. They don't know what they don't look like they know what they've been asked to do, quite frankly. And that's a worry that we're nearly 2 years in to this tenure of Postecoglou, and we just don't look organised. We look terrible. I know we finished 5th last season, and that was, yeah, on paper that's decent. But since the first 10 games of his reign, Spurs have just been all over the shop. That Chelsea lost, embarrassing 4-1 home defeat after that 10-game period. Since then, it's been so poor, so poor. And I think the club have been sitting on their hands for too long with this manager now. I think really the optimum time I think they should have got rid of him was when they played Ipswich earlier in the season at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. They lost 2-1. I mean that was a really bad performance, but that's long gone now. They should have got rid of him after that point, and they could have had an opportunity during an international break to hire a competent manager who can get the results out of this squad that they should be getting. This is not, for a time yesterday. Tottenham was 17th. And they've spent under Postecoglou the best part of nearly £400 million. It's yeah, the manager's, he is what he is. He's not the only one who's responsible for this mess. The board, they're responsible, and they have been for a long time now. This is not just in the Ange Postecoglou era. The board are responsible for the Conte era going sour. They are responsible for the Nuno appointment after such a protracted manager search. They were responsible for the failure of providing Jose Mourinho with a League Cup final, a manager whose CV alone is of more wealth than this club's trophy cabinet. They didn't give him the chance to see out a League Cup final. We're on about a board here who sacked a manager at half time in a game, so nothing's beyond them. But they're sitting on their hands with, statistically now, and I think I'm right in saying he's amongst the worst managers in the club's history by. Certainly this season has been a shambles, a disgrace, a disgusting season. And fans can be ambivalent about it, and they can say that, oh, well, the focus is on the Europa League. That's all we care about. I'm sick to death of this club losing games in the league, because we're just becoming even more of a laughing stock than we already are. Oh, some of the performances on that pitch today were absolutely awful. Really were bad. Vicario, if Vicario had a mouth that matched his performances, he'd be a world-class goalkeeper. Because some of the comments he comes out with, and he's publicly ridiculed the fans before, and whether you agree with that or not, if you're calling out the fans and you're saying that they need to stop moaning and they need to sort of pull together, you've got to put in a performance that matches that, my friend. You've got to do better than what you are. His distribution today was scandalous. It was terrible. Gave the ball away so many times. And, I'm sure people will turn around and say that some of his saves have kept Spurs in better positions than they would be without him. And some will say that Kinski, the backup keeper, isn't good enough. Some of Vicario's performances recently have been awful. Nottingham Forest game, he was responsible for probably the 2 goals we conceded, flapping at balls that he probably should be claiming. And today, some of his distribution, shocking, so bad. Liverpool, credit to them, that they're a brilliant team, and no doubt they're a brilliant team. But Spurs made it so easy for them. And the first goal, Szoboszlai, I mean, he's in so much space to play that ball across to Diaz. There was some confusion as to whether or not it was an offside, but I think Kevin Danso was playing him on. And I like Kevin Danso actually. I think he's a pretty solid defender, and I think he, with more game time and more experience in the Premier League, he will be a good defender and certainly a good option for Spurs to have. But he is the one playing Diaz on side. Diaz gets a tap in. The next goal, I've said McAllister's strike is a brilliant one, and it is. It's a fantastic strike into the corner, sort of the high top right hand corner. Vicario's never saving it, but it comes straight from a corner. It's Bergvall initially. The header from Bergvall's just not good enough. He heads it straight into the danger area. Pretty weak. He could probably head it behind if he's worried about putting it in the dangerous area. Just put it behind. And then Solanke and Johnson between them just don't do enough to stop the shot. And he just comes in. It's not really. It's not good enough. It's good play from him. It's a great goal from McAllister. The same with the other goal from Gakpo. Although maybe I'm thinking that. I think the Gakpo one was from the corner. They don't do enough to stop the shot. Solanke and Johnson just particularly don't do enough to stop the shot. That's so sorry. It's Bergvall's header from the corner that leads to Gakpo's goal. Not good enough. Solanke and Johnson too weak in the tackle. Gakpo's got a shot into the corner which he takes really smartly. But McAllister's goal, it's Archie Gray in that one, who just looks like he's running in quicksand. You know, he looks like he's either injured or he's not putting any effort in. And you know, I know he's young. He's 18 years old or 19 years old, but he's got to be doing better. He's got to be at least forcing McAllister back towards his own goal. But he just lets the player go by him. He's not done enough to stop the player passing to McAllister, and he's not done enough to stop McAllister himself from getting the shot away. It's just all round lazy football from Spurs, and Liverpool are in a dominant position then that Spurs are just not coming back from. Had Liverpool got out of second gear today, they'd have probably got it nearly in double figures. They had a lot of chances. Which on another day, and if they were playing in full flow, they'd have probably taken. And the fourth goal is from Spurs is the worst of the lot. They're up the pitch. Kulusevski's up the pitch. He loses the ball. Szoboszlai picks it up. And if you've seen the game today, you will see Szoboszlai has almost a free midfield to run at. There's no one challenging him he's running for about 60 yards and no one's put a tackle in. And then he finds Salah. What's the one thing you don't do with Mo Salah? You show him inside on his left foot. What does Destiny Udogie do? Shows him inside on his left foot. Bang, in the corner, 4-1. I'm going to come on to Udogie in a minute because I'm going to make my views plain on him. The own goal. Udogie puts the ball in his own net. Good play from Liverpool again. And Udogie's he's probably got no other choice really because Salah's right behind him and would have had a tap in anyway. There's some confusion again as to whether Salah's interfering with the play and whether they're offside or not, but the goal's given. 5-1. Right at the end, Nunez could have made it 6. Don't know what he's doing really, because he's gone to square it to Salah when he's more or less one-on-one. Doesn't need to do it. Just put the ball in the corner. And maybe that goes to show what his confidence levels are. At the moment, I'm sure Liverpool fans will know better than me. But Nunez just seems to be a striker who doesn't really play with any confidence. But it's just too easy again. Spurs just let that happen. There's one man on the halfway line, and they're allowing Liverpool to break at ease and break at free will, and they do. And they probably should have scored 7 or 8 easily. Chance in the first half Liverpool had as well. Gakpo, he's played through 1-on-1, and he decides to square it, and he could have just rolled the ball in to the corner very nonchalantly, a very easy finish, and he just chose to square it, which is baffling to me. But what is even more baffling is some of Destiny Udogi's defending. It's shocking. It's so poor. You just don't show Salah inside on his left foot. You just don't. Because more times than not, Salah's going to score with that left foot. Udogi for me is a wider problem with him because, and I don't know what anyone else thinks about Udogi, but and I know he's young, I know he's a young player, but Destiny Udogi was, when he came in, was billed as being this exciting prospect who'd scored and created quite a few goals for Udinese in Serie A. And it's a more of a wing-back system in Italy. I get that. And last season, to his credit, he showed that he could be that player who could, he could really influence a game from the left back position. And I suppose many people thought he would be the answer to the left back issue that Spurs have had for a while, I think. But I just don't think this season, and he's not alone. He's not alone in this. I just don't think this season, particularly, he's shown anything to suggest that he is the long-term answer for Tottenham. Because what I see with Udogie at the minute is a player who doesn't defend particularly well. He's often caught napping, or he's been naive, doesn't put in a strong enough tackle. You saw him today was naive. He let Salah in on his left. Some games early on in the season, I think particularly the one that stands out is the capitulation that they had against Brighton. He was napping, and he was responsible, I think, for 2 of the 3 goals that Brighton scored. But the other thing with Udogie is, considering he was touted as this attacking fullback, he doesn't like going forward that much. And now whether the system, if there is one, compromises that, I'm not entirely sure. But I'm watching a fullback who is almost stuck in limbo because he's not defending and he's not really attacking. We're not seeing him put any dangerous crosses in like you've seen, for example, in Liverpool players. You've seen Alexander-Arnold do so many times. You've seen Andy Robertson do so many times. Even in clubs that are not of the quality of Liverpool. Fulham, Anthony Robinson, you've seen him do it this season. Get forward, put balls in the box. Diogo Dalot, Man United, he's done the same. The fullback now has to be defensively good as well as being good in the final third. But Udogie seems to be good at neither at the moment. And whether that's just a confidence thing, I know he's had injuries, or whether that's just his ability, I don't know. But I'm looking at his statistics this season. He's got 1 assist in 24 games in the league this season. He's got none in any of the domestic cup games, and he's got none in the Europa League. And that's not a particularly good thing. Whereas you look at maybe when Jed Spencer's played there, I don't think he had a great game today. Jed Spencer's got 1 goal and 2 assists this season in the league. He's got 1 goal and 1 assist in the EFL Cup. So he's had more of an impact. Porro's had more of an impact on the right side. I think Udogie's got to be doing more, and I think he's going to need some serious coaching on his defensive work if he's going to be the long-term left back for Tottenham, the long-term answer. At the moment, if I'm being honest, I saw some reports last week or the week before that Manchester City were interested in Udogie if he became available. I would be open to seeing what they are offering at the moment, because I think if City are willing to offer a decent amount of money, that could be invested in a better left back option than Destiny Udogie. But again, like a lot of players at the club, judging them based on this manager and this season seems a trifle harsh, because I'm not sure that they're being coached properly at all. And maybe time will tell next season if they are the answer. But at the minute, they're not looking like the right answer. Brennan Johnson, man, what does he actually offer Tottenham? Really, what does he offer? And that is almost a rhetorical question, because it's not a lot. And that's ironic as well, because he's our top scorer this season, I'm pretty sure. And I know the attack in this game was somewhat limited because Liverpool have got very good defenders. But when Johnson gets the ball, you never feel like he's going to make an impact with it. You never feel like he's going to beat a man, or he's going to be tricky with it, or he's going to cut inside and have a shot like you saw Mo Salah do today, or he's going to have some clever feet that might make him beat a few defenders, like you might see Luis Diaz do, or you saw yesterday, if you're watching Chelsea and Everton, you saw Noni Madueke do. He's so one-dimensional. I actually forgot he was playing the full 90, and that's a worry, because if he's not scoring, what else is he doing? Not a lot. Not a lot. Only Wilson Odobert, who is a young prospect, young talent, came from Burnley. You know what he's all about. He's tricky. He's all right. He's not the finished article. He might not even be in the long term, might not even be good enough to play for Tottenham. But you know what he's going to do. He's going to try and beat his man. He's going to try and show some skill and try and get to the byline and cross the ball, which Brennan Johnson just doesn't do. And maybe it's a system thing, because I'm not even entirely sure Brennan Johnson is a right winger. I think he's more of a second striker, in the sense that his best attribute, and it's a good attribute, is to arrive late on crosses and be that person arriving at the back post to score the goal. It's not a bad thing to have. But if you're asking him to be a touchline winger, and a winger capable of beating his man crossing the ball low in for Solanke or Richarlison or Tell, he's not that player. And if that's what you're planning to use him for and nothing else, then you might as well let him go and spend money on buying a player better suited to that style, if that's what Spurs want to go with. Lucas Bergvall. And again, I'm not going to be harsh on Bergvall, because he's young and he's being asked to do a lot this season. In his first season in the Premier League, he's been asked to do a lot. But if you've seen social media for Spurs fans, you would have seen that a lot of them hold Bergvall in very, very high regard and think that this fellow is the next Luka Modric, or that he is the answer to all of Spurs' issues. And I'm sorry to be negative, but I just don't think he is that player yet. He could be. If he can develop under a different regime, if he can develop under a better coach, then I think he's got that in his locker. I think he's got that potential. But at the moment, Spurs fans need to stop making him out to be something that he isn't. He's a prospect. He is not a finished article yet. And at the moment, he makes far too many mistakes in pivotal areas. And it's on the one hand, it's good to have faith in your own ability. And he clearly does. He has faith in his dribbling skills. But it's also criminally naive if you do them you make errors on the edge of your own box or in your final third and defensive third. That's not going to help you. And it's certainly not going to help your team. So he probably needs to play it a lot simpler and cut those errors out of his game. The header he played today from the corner just wasn't good enough. Put it behind. If you're worried about making an error, put it behind. Because all right, and Liverpool might have, if he put it behind, they might have scored from the subsequent corner. We don't know. That's all hypothetical. But what we do know is from the header that he played, they scored their third goal. And, well, it's not helping the team if he's consistently losing the ball in a dangerous area. So I think there needs to be a little bit of realism applied to players like Lucas Bergvall and Archie Gray to a degree. Archie Gray today was not very good, and it's the first time he's really played in midfield. He's still a young player. He's still a young lad. So, we need to just have a little bit of caution around some of these younger players. They're going to develop. They're going to develop at different rates. They're going to develop at different abilities. They're going to have different skill sets. But we just need to exercise a little bit of calm and make sure that we don't develop them into something that we want them to be when they're not that player yet, if that makes sense. I think obviously today they've obviously got one eye on Bodo Glimt. And I've seen so many Spurs fans say that this is going to be an easy game, really, in many ways, because they're not playing Lazio. This Bodo Glimt side have beaten Lazio, and Lazio finished top of the group stage in the Europa League. And to say that Bodo Glimt is going to be an easy fixture is just absolutely nonsense, especially having watched that performance today. You could see Bodo Glimt coming to the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium and actually beating Tottenham, which would make things a real challenge then, because Spurs have got to go and play in Norway in the second leg, and that's going to be a very different challenge to what they're playing. They're playing at home in their own conditions, and they're used to the atmosphere at the stadium. Going away and playing in the Arctic Circle and on an Astro pitch where not many teams have been this season and won. It's a difficult ask. It's not the cut and dry result you think it's going to be. So we've got that to look forward to on Thursday. I know the club have organised a tifo to be held up in the. I think they're held up in the south stand to dare us to do one, which is good. Should help the atmosphere. But and Bodo Glimt, I think their domestic season has only really just started. So maybe Spurs have got better. Maybe they got better fitness levels, but in terms of rhythm and confidence, they're going into this with nothing because their league form has been so poor. You lost to Liverpool, lost to Forest, lost to Wolves, beat Southampton, but lost to Chelsea, lost to Fulham, lost to Man City. It's not acceptable to keep losing these amounts of games and expect to, just because the Europa League is going all right, then it papers over the cracks. It's not. Fans can see through that. You're not papering over the cracks, you're papering over a demolished building or a building that's on its way to falling down. So yeah, we've got the Europa League tie on Thursday. And Bodo Glimt today, they won 3-0. So they're in decent form. They won in the cup as well. So they're going into this game on the back of 2 wins. So, and you look at some of the teams in that they've beaten in the Europa League. They're good at home. They're not so good away, but they're good at home. So Spurs are going to want to go to Norway with a decent lead, just to make sure. And they've beaten Besiktas in the Europa League. They almost beat Manchester United. They didn't quite get over the line, but they almost beat Man United. They've beaten Braga, so they're no mugs. And I think their manager Knudsen, who's got a good reputation, he's going to have them well drilled and well organised, and they're going to be difficult for Spurs to break down. And we've seen Spurs struggle so many times against teams who play a low block. And whether they play a low block is a different matter. But Spurs struggle to break down teams that are well organised. So we need some caution around that game. I just finally want to cover the Romero saga, if you can call it that. I mean, it emerged that Christian Romero had done an interview with, I think it's TYC Sports in Argentina, and their journalist Gaston Edel. And the interview was done, it looks like, at the Tottenham Hotspur training ground. And Romero had come out with some quotes that basically saying that he wants to join or he wants to move to Spain to complete his idea of competing in all the top leagues in Europe, and he needs to move to Spain in order to do that. And it emerged earlier today that he's already said yes to moving to Atletico Madrid, although he is focused on the upcoming games with Tottenham. He is fascinated by the idea of being coached by Diego Simeone. Effectively, he wants to leave. And that's, all coming from your vice captain, who's been your captain as well while Son's been injured. For him to sit there at the training ground and conduct that interview, I think it emerged just after the loss to Nottingham Forest, in which he didn't have a very good game, was appalling. and was really a kick in the teeth to the fans who spent their hard-earned money and have gone to the ground to support the team, and he's coming out with those quotes on that, even when it was done before that game, is just not. It's not acceptable. And the club must have known about this because the footage of the interview just looks like it's in the training ground, in the middle of the training ground. So for him to come out with that is just an absolute kick in the teeth for all those fans, whether they've been to the game or not. Those fans have backed Romero for a long time and have been singing his praises in the media. They've been saying that he's a brilliant defender, and he's that the club's not going to be the same if he leaves. They've shown him so much love, and for him to turn around and say that is shocking and not acceptable on any level, especially as he's the captain. But maybe that would be the catalyst now for fans to be angry with Romero and to be angry with, maybe just angry with this board to try and change the club, because Romero's not happy for a reason, and that reason, I'm guessing, is that this club just shows no ambition on the pitch, and he wants to win, and fair play to him. If he wants to win, he's a World Cup winner, he's won trophies before, so he clearly isn't happy with something at the club, whether it be the manager, the board. I'm guessing the board, as he's called them out before this season. So on the one hand, you can't blame him, but it's not a very good look for your captain to be saying that. And I think you might see a number of fans start to say, well, maybe it's time to move him on in the summer now. And I know there have been links to Mark Gahey. I've posted that on social media on their account. They're going to face competition for Gahey, Spurs, and he's not going to be a cheap deal. And we know that Levy likes a cheap deal. They need to spend well to replace Romero. And Gahey could be that player. But they're also linked with Dean Howson from Bournemouth. Whether he's the right option, I'm not sure, because he's a young player and he's only been in the league a season. He looks very good. But I think Spurs need a more experienced head at the back, given that Van der Ven is not very old either. And they need someone who certainly is a leader. Romero is the vice captain, has been the captain as well at varying points this season. They need to have a leader at the back, someone who can marshal and organise a defence properly, because there certainly wasn't anyone doing it this. It certainly hasn't been anyone doing it this season, and certainly not today. They were all at sea at the back against Liverpool. Shocking. 15 goals Spurs have conceded in the games they've played against Liverpool this season. 15. I think that is the most that any team has scored against any other team in a season. 15. Shocking. So bad. All this whilst our glorious chairman sat on the gantry at Anfield, overlooking this shambles. 24 hours before, the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium was hosting a boxing event where North London Forever was being played on the tannoy. The roof of the stadium was red and white, the colours of Arsenal Football Club, at the home of Tottenham Hotspur. Just let that sink in. and just let that process in your head. And then you might start to realise that the biggest issue at this club is Daniel Levy and Enoch. They are the problem, ultimately. I bet when they hired Ange, they thought that, oh, this is a left field appointment. You know, we might be being clever here. Other clubs didn't think of this. There's a reason other clubs didn't think of it. He's not very good. He's out of his depth at this level. It's obvious. But it's the negligence of the board that has got Spurs to this point. It's got Spurs to be losing games like this. It's got Spurs to be losing 19 games in a season in the league and sitting 16th. Not acceptable. Just not acceptable. Anyway, I'm going to wrap it up there. Thank you very much for listening. Please remember to follow us on social media. We're on X, Instagram, BlueSky, and Threads. Also on YouTube as well. If you want to listen back to the episode, it's on YouTube, but it'll also be uploaded to Spotify and it'll be on Apple Podcasts as well. This hopefully will be the beginning of hopefully a more positive outlook on Tottenham Hotspur in the future. But as I said, I'm going to be honest and I'm going to be frank about how I see things at this club. And at the moment, nothing is positive. If you want to appear as a guest on this show, then please do contact me on social media. And all I can say is thank you very much for listening, and I hope you all have a good week.